Welcome to the Experience Fit Life podcast. And today I want to talk about leading with the identity of having a fit life. And it's not just about fitness. Very minimal of it is about fitness. It's not just about habits or routines or doing more. This is one of those conversations that sits underneath everything else. We're talking about identity and who we are. Because if you really think about it, most people don't struggle because they don't know what to do. You can Google workouts, you can find meal plans, you can learn how to budget money, you can listen to leadership podcasts. Information is everywhere, it's accessible from anywhere, any place. But the real struggle is this gap between knowing and doing. And that gap usually comes down to one thing: who you believe that you are. So let me ask you something. Have you ever set a goal, felt motivated, started strong, and then somehow ended up right back where you started? Maybe it's fitness, money, confidence, maybe it's consistency, just in general. You are not alone in that. And it's easy to say, I just need more discipline or I need to try harder. But honestly, it's not the real issue. The real issue is that your identity has not caught up to your goals. Think about it like this. You don't rise to your goals, you fall back to your identity. So if you set a goal to become healthier, but deep down you still see yourself as someone who never sticks with things, what's going to happen? You might push for a little while, you might even do well for a couple weeks, but eventually your brain is going to pull you back to what feels familiar. Not because you're weak, not because you lack willpower, but because your mind is trying to stay consistent with how you see yourself. So let's make it really real. Say someone identifies as, I'm just not a morning person. Now, they decide that they want to wake up early, get workouts in, be more productive, and they might do it for a few days, maybe even a couple weeks, which is great. But at some point, there's this internal resistance that kicks in, like, this isn't me. And slowly they just drift back. Now, compare that to someone who says, I am the kind of person who gets up early and takes care of business. That's different. That's not just a habit. That is a self-definition. They're defining who they are. And when it's part of your identity, your actions start to line up with it naturally. So here's where things get bigger than just fitness and living this fit life, because this shows up in every area of life. And that's why I love calling it a fit life. Sometimes people just assume this is about fitness, but it really has 10% to do with fitness, really, if maybe less. I want to talk about money for a second. If someone has always struggled financially, always felt behind, always living paycheck to paycheck, and they might say they want to be financially stable. But if deep down they still believe I'm just bad with money, or people like me don't get ahead, then their actions are going to reflect that. They might avoid looking at their bank account, or they just spend emotionally, or they might not invest in learning new skills or invest at all. They might pass up opportunities because they just don't feel ready. And even if they start making more money, they might find ways to lose it or mismanage it or spend it before it even shows up, because their identity has not changed. It's the same with confidence. Someone might say, I want to be more confident. But if they still see themselves as awkward or just not good with people, they're going to hesitate. They're going to overthink conversations. They're going to stay quiet when they actually have something to say. And they'll avoid situations that could help them grow. Not because they can't be confident, but because they don't see themselves that way yet. And yes, this does apply to fitness too. But not in the way that people usually approach it. It's not about forcing yourself to work out. It's about becoming someone who takes care of their body. That shift can change everything. Now it's not, I have to go to the gym. It becomes, this is just what I do. This is who I am. This is a part of me. This is a part of my life. Now, I do want to mention something because this is important. When we talk about identity change, it can sound like you're supposed to become this completely different person than who you are. like you're supposed to fake it or put on some kind of persona. And that's not what this is. This is not about being someone that you're not. It's not about it's about becoming a better, more aligned version of who you already are. And you're not replacing yourself. You're just expanding yourself. You're expanding the version of you into a better version of you. And there's a balance here that a lot of people miss. You can be grateful for where you are right now, because we should all be grateful for the things we have, the people we have in our life. But it's okay to still want more. It's okay to want God to fulfill the desires of your heart and not just settle. And those two things can exist at the same time. You don't have to hate your current situation to want to grow out of it. You can say, I'm thankful for what I have, but I know I am capable of more. And that's actually a really healthy place to operate from, because if you only focus on the future, you feel like you're never getting enough, that you're never enough. And if you only stay comfortable in the present, then you're never going to grow. You need both gratitude and vision. So instead of focusing on outcomes like I want to lose weight or I want to make more money, try shifting the question. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that naturally achieves this? And that question is going to change everything for you, because now you're not chasing results, you're building identity. And sometimes the answers to those questions aren't what you expect. If you're asking who is the type of person that naturally achieves this, maybe you think to yourself, well, somebody who works 80 hours a week and doesn't have a quality of life. Okay, so is that who you want to be? Is that the kind of person? And don't get me wrong, it doesn't require 80 hours a week for you to have better finances. But it is a question that can be a double-edged sword. Either way is good for you to ask, because it's going to help you answer a lot of questions. So let's walk through a real life example. Take someone who's always been broke. Their current identity might be, I'm always struggling financially. So their behaviors match that. They avoid tracking money. They spend based on emotion. They don't think long term. So now if they shift their identity to, I am someone who is intentional and in control of my money, their behaviors will start to change. They start tracking their spending. They think about things before they buy them. I always say sleep on it mentality, walk out, walk away, sleep on it. And 80% of the time, you're probably not going to go back and spend that money, and you're going to be grateful that you waited. They invest in learning. They make decisions based on where they want to go, not just how they feel in that moment. It's the same person, but it's a different identity, completely different outcome. Or take someone who struggles with just being consistent. They might say, I always start things but never finish. So every time things get hard, they quit. And that reinforces the identity. But if they shift to, I am someone who follows through even when it's uncomfortable, now the standard changes. They still feel resistance, they still have bad days, but they keep showing up. And every time they do, they're casting a vote for that new identity. It is who they are. And that's really what it comes down to. Identity is built through evidence, and every action you take is a vote. So the question becomes, what are you voting for on a daily basis? Now, a big mistake people make is thinking that I'll become that person after I reach the goal. But it actually works the opposite way. You become that person first, and that's what allows you to reach that goal day after day, getting to that goal. So I see this all the time in health and fitness and nutrition. If you think, walk, talk, and act like someone who is morbidly obese, you don't just flip a switch, hit the goal, and then, start to change into that person. You have to change your mindset along with your actions, that you can be this healthy, fit person who makes good choices for your body. And when I say fit, I don't mean six-pack abs, all this muscle definition. I mean a healthy version of you. And you have to mentally change before you're going to get there. So how do you start making this shift? if we just make it simple, first, pay attention to how you talk about yourself. The language you use matters more than you think. If you keep saying things like, I'm bad at this, I suck at this, I'm just not that type of person, you're reinforcing the old identity. Instead, shift it to, I'm becoming someone who, or I'm learning how to, or I'm working on being more, dot, dot, dot. You don't have to fake confidence, but you do need to stop locking yourself into the past. So if we get clear on who you're becoming, then you're going to have less vague ideas. You need to be specific. I'm someone who works out consistently. I'm someone who manages money well. I'm someone who communicates confidently. Clarity gives you direction. And just start small. You don't need to do a complete life overhaul overnight. You need consistent, aligned actions. One workout, one good decision with money, one uncomfortable conversation, and each one is a vote. And those votes are going to start to stack up. So over time, you build evidence. And once you have enough evidence, your brain starts to believe it. It shifts from I'm trying to become this to this is who I am. And that's when it gets fun. And another big piece is your environment. The people that you're around, the conversations you're in, the standards that you're exposed to, that all shapes your identity. If you're constantly around people who stay stuck and complain and avoid growth, it's going to be harder to change. But when you're around people who think bigger and operate differently, it is going to pull you up. So surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be, making the kinds of decisions that you want to make. It would be like trying not to do drugs and just going and hanging out with all these drug addicts. It doesn't make sense. If you are struggling to not make bad food choices that are terrible for you and you want to become better, then you can't be around, cheesecake and cupcakes and, whatever your cravings are. So the one thing that you have to expect is resistance. When you start changing, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You might hear thoughts like, this isn't me, or who do you think you are? And that's normal. That's your old identity trying to hold on. And you don't need to fight it. You just don't need to listen to it. Because what really happens in those moments when it would be easier to go back, when you don't feel like showing up, but you do anyway. When you want to fall into old habits, but you choose differently. And that's where identity is truly built. So at the end of the day, here's what it comes down to. You are always becoming someone, and every day, with every decision, you are reinforcing that identity. So the question is, are your actions aligned with a life that you want? Or are they keeping you stuck in the version of yourself that you're trying to outgrow? You don't need permission to evolve. You don't need to wait until everything is perfect. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to start showing up as a person that you're becoming. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one area of your life, just one for now, and ask yourself, who do I need to become here? And then take one action today that aligns with that. Not 10 things, just one. I promise you, just pick one. Because that's how identity is going to start to shift for you, one decision at a time. So thank you so much for joining me today. I encourage you to find those decisions for you to experience a fit life in every area of your life with one decision at a time. And if you would like to discuss with me some personal coaching, I would love to work with you, and have a blessed day.